Well, let me know if you guys can hear me okay. This thing's having some wicked problems. It's telling me that I'm live, but it also has a giant button that says go live and it refreshed and it was all kinds of broken this morning. So we're gonna press forward. We're gonna move ahead. Regardless of that, though. We can't let that stop us. So but let me know in the comments if you can hear me okay, if things are working properly, and we'll go from there. So all right, I see it. Your comments. The comments are not showing up on the stream. That's all right. Like I said, this is all glitched up this morning. You know what it was? Chrome just did an update, and I think it broke. So, all right. Well, anyway, good morning, everybody. My name is Hammer. I'm the founder of Originator Success, Grab and Go Social, and Rate Sensei. Come to you each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, you can join me. We're going to go ahead and jump in because it's already been wasting enough time with all this other gobbledygook. So let's go ahead and get started. What screen is that? Let's try this one more time. Come on, Billy. All right, here we go. So, all right, let's start off with a quick recap of what we got going on from yesterday. So let me pull up Presentify. Here you go. All right. So yesterday we were a little bit down to start the day, and actually, if we do the 5-day forecast here, you could, or 5-day, you could see we were down a little bit in the morning to start the day. Go back to here, and it looks like there was movement, but this is really nothing. It's not much at all. Nothing to get to kind of focus on, get excited about, or anything of the like. Basically, ended the day at exactly the same level as when most lenders were setting pricing. So it was flat on the day. There were no reprices worse, nothing to really worry about at all. However, look at what we got going on this morning. Everything on the right side of this dotted line. I got big downward trend this morning. Mortgage-backed securities currently tracking lower. That's not great. We're down 18 basis points on the day. Not in one swift move, but just a kind of nice, steady sell-off there. Part of that was retail sales. Retail sales came in this morning, surging by the most in a year. People spending money they don't have. What a surprise. Spending extends beyond gas. U.S. retail sales soared in March by the most in a year, suggesting consumers continued to spend on a wide array of merchandise despite a surge in gasoline prices. Value of overall retail purchases increased 1.7% following a revised 0.7% gain in February, according to the Commerce Department. And the data is not adjusted for inflation. The March increase was led by a record jump in spending on gas, which we knew because gas has jumped up to, $4 to $6 a gallon, right? From every category in the report. Furniture, electronics, general merchandise. Bitches be buying, yo. Bitches be buying. They're spending money. Everyone is spending money. So bonds don't really love this. It's a strong economy. There's no reason for the Fed to talk about cutting rates when we have a very strong economy. Expectation of a Fed rate cut at the meeting this month. 99.5% expected to stay exactly where it is at 3.5%. Expectation of a cut in June, same thing. No expectation at all. July, maybe a little trickling. September, October, okay, all right, we're getting there, almost a quarter. And December was a coin flip, not a coin flip anymore. Markets really starting to pull back from the idea that things are getting better, that inflation's getting better, and that the Fed will be in a position to cut rates. This is something we want to pay attention to. It just kind of shows you the leanings of what's going on behind the scenes with traders. And it shows us that if we look at the Japanese candlesticks and we look at this right here, right, we've seen a very, very nice improvement over time. We've seen bonds really work their way up. But it looks like we peaked right here on Friday. Remember, Friday, this was the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. And we saw very little negative reaction yesterday, much less than what you would expect to have seen. We could argue that the technicals, that we would have been looking for this 50-day moving average and stuff. I don't really think that the technicals are that important right now. That's why I haven't really talked about them. This morning, though, being down 17, 18 basis points, I think we're starting to see that curve where after what goes up starts to come back down. Of course, what is going to affect this and where it's going to go, a lot of it has to do with the idea of if we're going to extend the ceasefire. Now, Trump says he's not going to extend the ceasefire, right? Trump has said that he's really not, looking to do that. Not going to be rushed into making a bad deal. And the U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports would stay in place until a deal is signed. He's unlikely to agree to extend the ceasefire. I don't believe that. Does anyone else actually believe that? Let me know in the comments. Do you guys believe that? I don't believe that. I think, of course he's got to say that. You need a sense of urgency. If you're just going to extend the ceasefire, everyone's just going to drag their feet. Iran is just going to drag their feet, this whole thing, right? So because the longer that they can create havoc in the Strait of Hormuz, the more leverage it gives them in negotiations because they're interrupting the global flow of oil. So, of course, I don't think he's going to necessarily extend the ceasefire. First of all, the one thing about Trump is he'll say one thing and do something totally different, and he doesn't care. Whereas usually politicians would get roasted for coming out and saying something and then changing their mind or their stance or doing something different. They would have been tarred and feathered. One thing I love about Trump is he doesn't give a shit. So, he'll just be like, well, I changed my mind. This made more sense. This is what we were doing. So, that's one thing markets know this. This is why we're talking about it. So just because he says that he won't extend it, markets aren't really, I don't think they're really reacting on that news. I don't think that that's driving it, but it's, certainly something that we'll see where it is, but I think that they're still looking to get a deal done. He said, there's going to be a meeting and it'll all work out. It can all work out. And that's where they're at this. As far as where can rates and pricing go and where will everything go from here, from this, it really does depend. It depends on, if we do see a deal, if there's military action. I don't think there will be. I think that things will continue, but this definitely catches my attention. The fact that, let me adjust this so you guys can see it on the screen. Let's bump this make this a little bigger. There you go. So the fact that we were at about a 50% expectation of a rate cut, and now that's pushed all the way up to about a 30% chance, that's kind of a big deal. There's definitely some talk about what Warsh can do after seeing all of the conditions change. So Warsh was very much nominated by Trump because he believed that the Fed needs to lower rates. You could argue whether he's doing it, because of just placating Trump or whether those were his sincere beliefs. I think he really did have sincere beliefs that way. But at the same time, there's talk, can you really believe that? Can you still think that with what we're seeing and with the potential for inflation to jump up for a few months as we see oil prices continue to stay where they're at? So we'll see where that goes. As far as rates and pricing, though, anything closing near term, we're cautiously floating to start for the day. But we definitely want to keep an eye on this because we could be seeing continued worsening. I don't think we have to worry. Again, it could go, if there's a talk that the ceasefire gets ended, bonds, would we see a flight to safety? I don't know. I don't think we would. If we see oil prices continue to move higher, we've seen a disconnect where bonds don't just react to what's going on with oil, but it's definitely an influencer. So we'll cautiously float to start the day, but I would be looking at locking anything that's closing near term if we don't see some improvement. As far as where rate sheets have gone, I mean, we were kind of capped out at that point of where we had lowered here. And hopefully it will continue to see them move lower. But, we're at 6.29. We don't want to jump back up to that 6.40 level, but we could, right? You got, some room to do that. We're going to see a little bit higher this morning because we're down already on the day. Down about 16 basis points, but is that enough? Will it continue to get worse from here? So it'll be a creeping thing. it would be a creeping thing. And do you want to, depends on risk tolerance, do you want to lock those loans? Anything's got time, I think we don't have to worry about too much because we'll see it ebb and flow. And I think we do have room to continue to see improvement if we see some resolution to what's going on with things in Iran. So, all right. With that said, let's go ahead and anything that's 15 to 30 days, I would cautiously float. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Anything 30 plus, I'd be floating. Wouldn't worry about that. So let's go ahead and hit your comments for a bit, and then I'll wrap it up. Truflation real-time headline: inflation is 1.7%, which includes food and energy. Their numbers were from recent CPI, and PCE was spot on when reconciled. Yeah. Trump said on CNBC he'll be very disappointed if Warsh doesn't cut rates right away. Problem is, Warsh can't cut rates. Warsh has to convince the rest of the committee to cut rates. So, we know where Trump stands on that. The Iranian IRG negotiators are saying they won't attend the negotiations, but for some reason, no insurance companies will issue life insurance. Yeah, but they're no better or worse than Trump and all the posturing. They say they're not going to negotiate if they're under threat. They've been under threat the entire time. I mean, Trump's been on Truth Social saying he's going to blow up their country like 6 or 7 times already. So they've been, do we really believe that? Right. Mike Thibault said he locked last night. Good time to lock. Yeah, that was in our text alert. What did I say at the end of day text? Let me take a look at it here. By the way, today is 3 weeks, my 3-week anniversary to my knee. And if me watching other people on TikTok is any kind of whatever, I'm kicking ass. Again, I know that I have a very unique way of going about my therapy. I'm not working with a physical therapist. Not that I think that people shouldn't do PT. For many people, I think PT is a very good and very necessary part of their recovery process. For me, I'm very in tune with my body and with exercising and exercises and my muscles. And I am much farther ahead than where many other people are. I'm walking without a cane. I'm walking without any kind of a problem. I have up to 110, 115 degrees flexion. I have almost full extension. I think my extension is still being challenged by some swelling. And also I had some problems before surgery with the tightness in the muscles behind my popliteal muscle, which is it's above your calf. It's behind your knee. So all that stuff, but otherwise, I do have some pain. I definitely still have a lot of swelling. I'm working on the swelling, but continuing, to just work on range of motion without pressing my body into things that I think create even more swelling and more aggravation. I think there's such a fine balance. So I'm feeling good though. All right. But I'm crazy. Dave said I'm crazy with no PT. Dude, you got to remember, man, I came back from my broken leg and all my torn ligaments in my ankle with no PT. And I'm back 100%. So I feel like you need to, if you know your body, I feel there's a lot you can do. Other people that may not be as comfortable, absolutely. But I've already started working on stairs. I'm 3 weeks in. I can work on stairs. I'm not overdoing it either. I'm not, pushing myself into severe pain. I'm listening to my body, and why am I experiencing pain and what kind of pain should I be pushing through? You're pushing through what some people call pain, I think is discomfort. But I think if you're experiencing pain, then that's a sign of a problem. So I don't necessarily think that you need to be pushing through pain. So I think a lot of it is swelling. A lot of it is working through swelling and all of that stuff. But anyway, got one of my better nights of sleep last night. So I'm excited about that. This is what we had for the end of the day yesterday, though. Let me show that up real quick, and then I'll wrap it up as I'm babbling about my knee. All right. Bonds held steady through the day with markets seeming to believe a deal will get done before the ceasefire expires on Wednesday, or at a minimum, the ceasefire will be extended despite talk otherwise. It's possible there will be more pullback tomorrow in bonds, but it's just a possibility. Unfortunately, that's what has happened. Most loans likely to benefit from continued floating, but may want to lock some if risk averse. And so like Mike Thibault locked yesterday, that was a good idea. Yes, Miss Brandy, you wouldn't be wrong. My wife is a saint. She knows me very well, and yes, I am stubborn, and yes, that's definitely a thing. My wife also points out for whatever that like things like man colds and stuff like that that people are always saying like that. A lot of men and colds and there's whatever. Whereas I tend to push through everything and I'm always fine. So I'm looking to do my bike trip in. Let's see, what do we got? 1, 2, 3. So 4. So I've got about 4 weeks. Yeah, I got about a month. So I'm looking to do a bike trip in about a month, and I will keep strengthening my legs, keep working myself so that we can go on our bike trip for a few days, over a week, like we like to do each year. So I'm pushing for that. But anyway, that's enough of me babbling, y'all. Thank you. I appreciate you all. And Brandy, you're 100% correct. From wives everywhere, you ain't wrong. So I don't know how I'm going to end this stream, y'all, because the button to end it is not working. I guess it'll just end eventually on its own. So with that said, thank you, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow and we'll talk more then. Take care. Bye-bye.